We started a group online only during lockdowns and COVID restrictions. And I found there were huge benefits to that. It's particularly in terms of accessibility for people who are anxious about travelling or getting anywhere around the city. We're in Brighton, so getting around the city. And then we did try some in-person meetings, and we tried hybrid meetings. And the hybrid meetings were so incredibly stressful for me to facilitate. I feel I couldn't focus on the people in the room, and I couldn't focus on the people online. So I felt like I was doing a disservice to everybody. So for me, hybrid has been really, I just can't quite get my head around it. And so we've ended up with a different type of hybrid where we meet some people in person and some people online, and they sort of self-select where they want to meet us and in which communication method is best for them. And that's where we've sort of ended up. But a lot of everything now, like when we get invited to meetings and we ask for people with lived experience to attend meetings, most of the time now it is online, and it does exclude people who are not comfortable with the technology or just don't want to be online in a meeting.
Part of the council we have it's called warm welcome. It's because of the crisis what's going to happen, it's happening in winter time, so now it's been launched in the council. So we heard from a lot of residents what they wanted because of the heating bills and everything's all going up. So now we have opened up like cafes and other areas, slowly opening up for residents to come in.
I'm co-production lead, and we've just started doing some co-production with residents with lived experience. The in-person kind of sessions are very informal. They're more friendly. They're, just a natter over a cup of tea, just organic conversation. They're very helpful, and there's that real sense of just like a friendly kind of environment, which I think people warm to. What we have found is when we've been doing in-person co-production is doing it at a neutral venue has been really helpful. So I've been holding a lot of our sessions in kind of out in the community, so going to existing groups and using their facilities. So we are truly on an equal kind of playing field, that I'm new to their environment, I'm being welcomed in, and that's been really helpful to kind of get in. So for some people, they don't have the facilities or the skills to be able to join online and access free Wi-Fi. That's something that we are seeing with the poverty co-production work that we've been doing. So a lot of the co-production we found is better face to face, and as I said about doing a neutral venue, providing refreshments as well has always been a good thing. So having somewhere warm, safe, inclusive for everybody, that's always been a winner. But we would like to have the option of providing an option to join online, especially with the colder months, and the vulnerability around some of our residents with COVID and transport issues that we've got at the moment down here.
That's something people always need to be mindful of, that expectation, particularly for kind of vulnerable adults, and the kind of cost of living, that people aren't at a disadvantage of having to kind of, we were talking about, I went to a lived experience kind of panel, and beneficiaries were talking about difficulty of kind of having no access to Wi-Fi at home, and then using data, particularly like Teams calls, etc., draining the sort of data allowance. And the kind of team was talking about ways that they could still help them to access kind of online spaces, and that was about kind of working to kind of have hire of laptops or encouraging use of libraries and things like that. I agree. I think hybrid can be quite kind of, there's a lot of things going on, and it can be quite distracting and difficult to make everyone feel included in those conversations for all the reasons we've mentioned. But being able to join when they're unable to, for many different reasons, that month, knowing that they can still access it online is like hugely beneficial to their kind of overall well-being, and knowing that they can kind of still feel connected to that space even though circumstances might prevent that. So it's that kind of consistency and building up that trust and relationship was really important. So having the option is something that they found works really well and has allowed that consistency of membership by offering both.
Just talking about online accessibility for people, I think it's really important to reflect that sometimes the barrier is just being scared of entering the space, and we send out like a really easy guide sheet on how to use Zoom and what all the functions are and things before people join, so that they know what the screen looks like, they know where all the buttons are, they know how to use the chat. And I meet with people in face to face before they join an online meeting, and I think there's that element of knowing someone, meeting someone for coffee before you meet them online. And I think that online works really well for accessibility for me. I work for a disability charity, so lots of people find it much more accessible to meet online, but there is something about having that sort of relationship of meeting someone before you then convert that meeting, that relationship online, and you keep some of that sort of like face-to-face contact. So I think when we talk about hybrid, I think that can work in lots of different ways. I think it doesn't just have to be the meeting. It can be having relationships with people offline and online as well. And I think when you work those together, I think they work quite well to make it more accessible for people. But I definitely think, and I also give the option for people to observe a meeting before they join. So they come in and I tell the group there's somebody coming in observing today, but they can come into a meeting with their video camera off, with their microphone off. They can use the chat if they want to, and then I follow up with them afterwards, so that, and then we have a chat about how that felt and did you have any anxieties and you have any questions, so they don't feel like the very first time they come into the meeting they don't know the chemistry of what's going on online. And I think all that just, it helps a little bit with people that feel more nervous about being online.
And so doing hybrid meetings was a little bit scary at first, because, you know, you've got people in the room, people online. How do you get everybody engaged? But we just worked on it. I spent, you know, quite a while preparing for it, and it really paid off. We have a camera with a microphone that sits in the middle of the room, and it took a while to get used to it, but it was quite an old-fashioned plug and play thing, but it did work, and it really it focused on whoever was talking in the room, so people online felt a lot more part of it. We never leave anyone out there. We have them projected on screen, and we make sure that everyone gets to have a say as if they were in the room. When we all go off for lunch, in person, we've sent people boxes who are joining us online with as much as we can cram into a box that you can send for for the price of a large letter, and at least they get something. They might not be able to sit with us at lunchtime, and we just try and make it as inclusive as possible. If anyone does have any technical difficulties getting on, then we can spend time with them before before the meeting, and afterwards we make sure that everyone's kept informed with what's being said. If we have a group photo, we also have the thumbnails of people online as well. We make sure that everybody is included. So some people just wouldn't be able to otherwise.
For me, it's about expectations of and context setting before they go to meetings. So regardless of whether it's online or in person, I think it's really important when working with people with lived experience to make sure that they have a really good context of where, especially if they're entering a meeting that's met several times before and there's an ongoing sort of like rolling agenda, making sure that they're fully informed and they understand what the context is to what's being discussed in that meeting is really crucial. And also just being really flexible and adapt the meetings to suit the people that are in them. So we've had to be really flexible and really, so when we started our group I had an idea like what the agenda would look like, and then the group started creating their own agenda, and they wanted discrete space within, closed space within the meetings where no outsiders were invited to. They just wanted to have like an open discussion around mental health within the group without any commissioners or people visiting the group. So we've made a space within the agenda for them to talk about whatever they want to on that particular time. And I think there's something really important there about sharing agendas and making sure that there's space for all attendees at meetings to add things to agendas. So even though we might have a directive to, you know, discuss a certain topic, there needs to be space in that time for the people in the group, as in the meeting, to decide what they would like to discuss at that meeting as well.
Production shouldn't be like a bolt on, it should be built into the system, where it's just part and parcel of good practice, is making sure that people with lived experience are involved. And that kind of, for me, goes beyond just having kind of panels that are routinely asked questions, because they cannot possibly represent entire communities. They're a snapshot of individuals' experiences. And I think it's about making sure that lived experience is embedded within the system, that people, you know, on kind of commissioning level and beyond, that we've got that kind of lived experience represented, because I think that, you know, that's what's needed to really kind of change the system and improve people's lives.